One of the things about being a writer in the 21st century is that it's not enough to write things, you need to promote your work too. Social media such as Twitter and Facebook are great platforms for promotion, but today I'm trying something new. I'm off to Salford City Rafio, 94.4 FM, for a radio interview with DJ Allan, which I'm hoping will improve my media profile and bring in some extra readers and followers. With a bit of luck, I might even flog a few more extra copies of my book, Floating in Space.
Well, there we are, Hermits. Got me a bit of trouble there. Let's see how the mics are. Steve, good morning again.
Morning. How is that this time?
That's a lot better.
Absolutely, thanks.
Yes, right, good. Okay, well, as I say, you're an author, a writer and a blogger. So let me tell you, how did all this start?
Well, to be honest with you, when I was a school kid, I've always been a writer. I used to come home from school and write stories and so on. And as a youngster, I was always into sci-fi and espionage. And I carried on writing stories like that through until like my 20s. And then when I was in the mid-20s, I thought, to really be a writer, to produce something that is worthwhile, you've got to have a personal connection to it. So instead of writing about espionage from what I've seen on television, I started writing about myself. And at the time, in the late 70s and early 80s, I think it was like mid-80s when I started writing this book, I used to work for GM buses. I used to be a bus conductor, then a bus driver. And at the time, in the early 80s, I used to work for GM buses in Stockport, and we had a lot of old banger buses. So if you remember in the early 80s when all the buses were going for one-man buses,
yes,
in where we worked in Stockport, we still had drivers and conductors.
Yeah, everybody wanted that.
That's right.
Yeah, someone to say good morning to you, because now you pay your fare. Quick, get on your seat. There's a queue here. I need to get off.
Absolutely, yeah. So we had a lot of fun in those days with crews like that. And the other thing as well, what I used to find when I became a driver was if something happened to you, say somebody cut out in front of you, you turn to your conductor and say, he was a pillock or something.
Yes.
But when I became a one-man driver, I found that...
It's a bit lonely, isn't it?
Well, exactly, yeah. And those little incidents would wind up, they'd build up, and you'd find yourself at the end of the day quite...
You couldn't take the pressure off.
Exactly, yeah. There was no release valve. You can always speak to one of your customers and that, but generally they were like way at the back of the bus. So I found that very difficult when I became a one-man driver. But going back to the book, what I did is take a lot of these experiences and I started writing essays about them. And I thought, hey, I can actually build this up into a little bit of a novel. So my book, it's called Floating in Space, is really about my earlier life, but a little bit jazzed up a bit with a little bit of fiction.
Well, we all have that in life.
Yeah.
Even if you don't put it in the book. It's make-believe, isn't it?
Yeah. So that's what my book's about. Life in Manchester in the late 70s, early 80s, working as a bus conductor, and there's kind of things that happen to us, and there's a little bit of a narrative thrown in.
Go back to fiction. So I tell my wife I love her every morning, she believes it. 51 years. Shocking. Yeah, you're probably listening now.
51 years.
Trouble probably when I get home.
No dinner for you today, Alan.
There never is. I have to make it myself. Carry on. Go on. Sorry.
So that's what happened. I wrote the book, and then I had a typewriter and I typed it out, and then the PC revolution came, and I started putting it onto my PC. I think it started out on a floppy disk, and then it's on a CD. And when I'd written about 75% of the book, my computer crashed and I lost more or less everything. But
no backup.
Well, I knew that I'd backed it up, but I couldn't find it.
Oh yes, that happens.
But then I put it all back together again, and when I got again to the 75% mark, I found my backup. So I ended up with like two versions.
Slightly different, of course.
Yeah, exactly, slightly different, and I didn't really know what to do with it. And then a few years back, we went on holiday to France, and it was a very wet holiday, something like it is today. And I thought I'll sit down and sort it all out. So I deleted all the stuff I didn't want, rewrote everything, added the ending, and then finally completed it. And that's how I produced the book.
Right, so that's how it first went. Okay, well, I'm going to ask you in a moment how you published that book, because I presume it was published. I'm going to play one more track and then we'll come straight back to you. Let's listen to the Righteous Brothers. You've got that loving feeling by the time I get home today, I think. So, of course, it's not. And the last moment or two we found is 3/4 of the way through it. And I presume the last quarter is always the hardest, Steve. How are you going to finish it? Did you know how it was going to end before you started, or...?
Well, I did, yeah, because I had all these different versions. I'd written it out in longhand, I had a typed version, and I finally doing it on my computer. And I put together an ending based on a real incident, which was based on a guy at work. He was a lovely guy, a really nice guy, but what a lot of us didn't realise, he had a lot of financial problems. And one day he had a bit of a breakdown and stole a double-decker bus and drove off into the sunset.
That's different. It wasn't Cliff Richard, was it?
It wasn't.
Summer holiday and his gang. Going back.
Anyway, that's how I wrote the ending, but I thought maybe it was a bit fantastic, even though it actually did happen. And I chose another ending, which perhaps a bit more, I won't tell you what it is, but it's a little bit more sensible. And obviously then I had to go about publishing the book.
Yeah, how do you go on about publishing the book?
Well, I sent it to a number of publishers, and it was rejected by 3 publishers. And to be honest with you, that's not really a great amount in publishing. I did a blog post on my website a while ago about books that were rejected by publishers. And I found out that Day of the Jackal, if you remember, that was a cracking book, rejected 4 times.
Oh.
Gone with the Wind, rejected 38 times.
Wow, I wouldn't have thought that. I'd have thought they'd pick that up within the first 2.
Absolutely, yeah. And The Time Traveller's Wife, that's quite a recent book, that was rejected 25 times.
So you've got to go looking round, ready if you've got to have
That's right,
a pocket
yeah.
full of publishers ready to go from one to the other.
Yeah, you've got to do your research. I think the problem for me is, I think publishers are not just looking for one book, they're looking for a series of books. So if they're going to spend money on you to promote you, they need to know, Steve, what's your next book? What's number 3? But unfortunately, I don't have number 2 at the moment, or number 3.
Did they ask you if you have got other ones coming through?
They didn't ask me, no, but I have read that by doing research.
To know there's continuity there.
That's correct, yeah. In fact, I've got a friend of mine who writes fantasy books, and she was picked up by a publisher, and she was writing a series. I think her first book was a trilogy, and she had a series of books, and then she had a second series. And they paid her a nice amount of money, and they worked with an editor, and then 2 years later they said, sorry, we're not going to publish. And
after they'd paid her?
I think she gets, they'd only
get some of it first and see how it goes at the end.
That's right, yeah. So I know she was really gutted, even though perhaps she wouldn't admit it. But that particular lady is a lovely girl, and I know she'll go on and work more on her books and create more books.
Does it cost you to the public? Do you have to pay for that? If you say, well, look, if you want me to publish it, this is what it's going to cost you, and then if we make some money...
I see what you mean. Yeah. I mean, you do get paid to publish books, don't you? I personally, I wouldn't be doing that, but that can happen. You can pay.
So the publisher will ask you for money?
Yeah.
Right. And then...
But to me, that's not a way forward. What I do with my book is self-published on Amazon. I remember someone at work saying to me, they'd read about it and how easy it was, and it is quite easy in a way. But the thing is, there's no one there to show you how to format your book and how to make it look attractive and edit it and so on. So you've got to work all that out yourself. And when I first published my book, I mean, it was printed on A4, and I submitted it, and it was checked by the online editor, and I published it. I bought the first copy myself, and the first copy, unfortunately, was A4 sized. It was much too big because I'd cocked up the measurement, so I had to go back.
Who takes out, can I call it, the things that are unnecessary, the unnecessary bit? I presume when you make a book, say you've got 500 pages of A4, who knocks it down to 300?
Well,
who does that?
If you're self-publishing, it's yourself.
Is it really?
Yeah, you've got to take out and take out the fluff, basically.
Yeah.
So to be honest with you, my manuscript wasn't in a good place when I first submitted it to Amazon, and after working on it and getting back the printed book and looking through it, and I'm happy though, because my girlfriend Liz is a fully paid member of the Grammar Police. she went through my book and
Is that like a proofreader?
Yes.
Good for her. It's good to know somebody on the inside.
Absolutely. She sorted out the grammar and stuff like that and the spelling, and that was a big help to me. And I noticed a few people have said to me, there's a lot of references in the book to things from the 70s, like TV shows, like for instance The Prisoner. I don't remember that, with Patrick McGoohan.
Yes.
And people were saying, what's that, The Prisoner?
Is that the 70s?
Yeah, well, it was 60s, wasn't it,
60s,
actually, the Prisoner. So stuff like that. So I've ended up putting an index in the back of the book where a lot of these references to the 60s and 70s are explained, because now we're in 2019, it's a lot of years later.
Yes.
A lot of people don't understand.
Do you have a lot of problems, excuse me, marketing, or how do you getting your book noticed?
Well, that is the big problem, isn't it? It's one thing publishing it, and then you got to think to yourself, how do I market it? I read somewhere the other day that there are 5,000 new books published every day on Amazon. So you've got to compete with all these.
That's a heck of a lot of competition.
It's incredible. And the only way to do it, well, for me, is using social media. So I'm there on YouTube, on Twitter, on Facebook, and I've got my website on WordPress. And what I try to do on WordPress, I mean, it's very easy to start a blog on WordPress. It's completely free. The only thing I pay for is my web address, which is stevehigginslive.com. I actually wanted stevehiggins.com, but there's an American comedian, unfortunately, who's pinched stevehiggins.com.
Well, it's not right. So, I'm the same name as you.
That's right. So anyone listening, if you want to look at my blog, stevehigginslive.com. And what I try to do is write about stuff that happens to me. I mean, my book is very humorous, it's very light humour. So I try to look at things that have happened to me and present them in a humorous light. So if you like that post, you should like the book, because it's in a very similar vein.
Right, I'm going to play some music and then we'll give you a rest, Steve, and then we'll come straight back to you.
One of my favourite blogs was a post about hoodies. It was called Hoodies and a Shaggy Dog Story.
You mean the hoodies on the coat, where people wear hoodies when it's not raining?
Absolutely,
and inside on a hot day, you think, why have they got their hoodies on? Are we down the same track here?
I think so, yeah.
Okay, go for it.
What happened in this incident, I used to live in Merseyside and I used to take the dog for a walk, and to get to the field you had to go down a little ginnel. And as I was walking down the ginnel, this hoodie came flying past me on a mountain bike. Anyway, we were getting to the field and there was this old lady there with a dog, looked a bit distressed. So I said to her, are you okay? There's everything okay? And she said, that guy on the mountain bike has grabbed my handbag and ridden off with it. And I thought, oh my gosh. I said, look, I'll run back to the house and call the police. And she said, no, don't worry about it. And I said, no, I'll go back and call the police. And she started laughing then. And not only laughing, but absolutely killing herself laughing. And I thought, oh my gosh, she's having a hysterical breakdown or something. And she said, look, listen, calm down. She said, I've got to tell you this story. And what happened was, every day she took her dog to this field for a walk, and there's a kind of rough area with trees, and then in the middle of it is a football pitch that's fully made out. And her dog used to like to go right into the middle of the football pitch and do a poop. And so she said, I'm not having the kids, standing in that. So she used to get a little bag and pick up the poop. But she didn't like walking home with the poop. So what she did, she got an old handbag and put the poop in the handbag. So the day that I die, I'm going to say to the creator, can I see that guy's face when he opened up that handbag?
Well done, that lady. So it obviously happened before. It must have been a regular occurrence for her to do that.
Well, yeah, I mean, she just didn't like walking home with a
little black bag showing, so she hid it.
She just put it in the old handbag.
I hope he looks before he puts his hand in the bag. Well, no, hope he doesn't. Hope he doesn't. Yes.
Well, that's the kind of story that I like to write about.
Yes. And these are true stories, of course,
a true
which
story,
are not made up, which is nice.
Yeah, the only thing with that story is, well, with a lot of my stories, I've been doing this blog for 3 years and I'm gradually running out of stories. So what I tend to do is
sort of going back to Liverpool to that field, because you're still there. You might get some extra stories.
What I tend to do is write about, books. I buy loads of second-hand books, and I write about bookshops and buying second-hand books. And one of the things I love about a second-hand book is that not only has it told its story to me, someone else has had that book, and they've had the story as well. I've got a fabulous book at home that Liz bought me about. It's a biography by a film director, and now I'm here for life of me, I can't remember the guy's name.
It's alright, happens to us all. I go home and I say to the wife, "Who are you?" And then I realise. She says, "Don't you remember me?" I said I didn't want to. Sorry, go on.
And then it's a book from the Dallas County Library. I think Liz bought it on the internet, on eBay, yeah. So I think it's fabulous to have a book like that and know that it's got this provenance, that it's come all this way to me. That's what I love about second-hand books. So I write a lot about books and classic films. I mean, I am a big TV film buff. I sit there and watch Casablanca. I must have seen it 100 times.
Yes, going back a bit.
Yeah, I love films like that. I love film noir, old Hollywood films. And again, they're the things that I tend to write about on the blog. Every now and again I'll do something about floating in space and try to big it up to the public and trying to get them to buy it, but it's funny stories, books and films. That's mainly what I try to write about.
Going onto your blog and your what sort of posts will we find on there?
Well, that's it.
That's the type of thing that we're going to find on that.
Yeah, like I say, I'm running out of humorous stories, but I did some stuff the other week about the daft things that happen in restaurants. I mean, Liz and I used to go into this Italian restaurant in St Anne's, which is no longer there, and they had a fabulous waiter there called Giorgio. And Giorgio was the master of doing
the
absolutely.
main thoroughfare in
Yeah, that's right. Yeah. Oh no, sorry, this one it was round one of the back streets.
Oh, okay.
But the waiter Giorgio was the master of doing nothing. He'd greet you in the restaurant, maybe give you a knife and fork, but then he'd just sort of wander about doing nothing. And I remember being in that restaurant once when they had a new girl there, an Italian girl who spoke no English. And Giorgio...
That sounds tricky, especially when you're ordering something.
Well, yeah, but what happened was Giorgio came, gave us a knife and fork, and then the girl, even though she didn't speak English, took our drinks order, brought the drinks over, brought the water over. Yeah, we're just like by miming, we want this. And whenever we go into a restaurant and we see someone who is a waiter that is really bad, we both say, "Is he related to Giorgio?"
Yeah, those memories stay. Now you've got you've got a web page, haven't you?
Yeah, that's it. Yeah, SteveHigginsLive.com.
Yeah, so if you want to see any of these stories that you've mentioned,
yeah,
where do we find them? On your website?
Yeah, just click onto there, SteveHigginsLive.com. And you post every Saturday at 10 o'clock.
Okay, right, we're going to play some music. How about the Jacks? Right, fair enough. Well, Steve, it's been a complete pleasure, my privilege to have you here. Thank you for being so interesting. And, well, good luck for the future.
Well, thank you very much. It's been great to be here.
Put a little bit.